And we're live. Welcome back to Ask Dr. Vincent After Hours edition. And as always, you are still with me, yours truly, Dr. Vincent, and my co-host, and as I said before, friends. Stephen, welcome back, Stephen.
Good afternoon, everybody. Fantastic to be here as usual. I probably should find some other way of saying hi rather than fantastic to be here. I say that every week.
Don't you feel fantastic to be here?
I feel fantastic.
Thank you, because I do feel fantastic too. And I know from the numbers from our last two episodes, we have 21% increase in both download and play rate. And I am so happy because apparently the last two episodes and topics really, really resonated with a lot of our listeners. As a matter of fact, I think I sent you a screenshot from one of our listeners in regards to leadership and health and how he correlated it. He found similarities to what he's going through at the moment in terms of his sleeping quality and sleeping pattern.
Look, I think there's so much we can talk about in that space, and I'm looking forward to talking more about leadership and work and health. As we go forward as well.
And the other point that we also touched on a little bit last week, when we talk about how someone who probably didn't score very well or wouldn't score very well on paper or on effectiveness or productivity score sheet actually is the glue that gel the entire team. And I know that this is one thing that you want to talk about when we have the chance. But as always, let me be a good host and actually really do start this, because last week it was such a robust discussion. We went over time from.
Sorry, everyone.
No need to apologize. I think people liked it, and compared to all of these big podcasts, they could go for like 3 hours. So, judging from that, we're actually under time. But today's episode is something that, again, at least to me, Stephen, is very nuanced, because I'm a man of science. I love technology, but at the same time, I also know and still believe that there are still that I don't know whether this is a nostalgic sort of kind of emotion and feelings, but the good old days when everything is still, or most things were still analog, right?
Yes.
So I guess people can actually guess the topic today, because I did put it on the screen, is how AI, artificial intelligence, is quietly making us less healthy. Because we think that with the development of health science, with the cutting edge technology when it comes to medicine, we should be the healthiest we have ever been throughout the humanity, right?
Look, I think so, Vincent. One of the things, though, that we need to remember is that this technology is actually not that old.
You're right.
We've only been using it for really only a few years. When I was thinking about this topic, I was also thinking about, I think we lovingly call some of the search engines like Dr. Google. Obviously, Google is not a doctor. Please don't really take the advice.
Neither is WebMD.
WebMD.
Yeah,
but and even then, WebMD, I think, and all of those health sites, they're all sites that try and nudge you in the right direction. Kind of the same thing that we try and do as well. Right? So I am not a doctor. This is general advice. We like to talk about how to nudge you in the right direction, eat well, exercise, etc. So when I think we used to go to Google and say, "Hey, Google, what's this rash?" And Google would come back with, "Oh, that's a tropical rash from Brazil or somewhere or other."
According to Wikipedia, a rash is a change of the skin that affects its.
Speaking of Google,
that's exciting.
A rash may be localized in one part.
Okay, Google.
Or affect all the skin.
Okay, thank you so much.
I won't be saying that again.
You're most welcome. Have you noticed that Google actually changes voice whenever you have a dialogue with them?
I have. It's very confusing.
Anyway,
so
it feels like we have a producer behind the scene.
We do. I might use that in a future episode and ask it weird questions. But my point is that there are these resources which we can access, and we should. I think that they're very useful in many cases. If I want to understand what is the normal blood pressure for a person of my age, then that's a very easy thing to ask a chatbot maybe, or ask a search engine, and
Do
you will
you
get some
think?
references.
Do you think though that it makes a difference the amount of existing knowledge that someone has, or the amount of affinity or proclivity to creative thinking or critical thinking that someone has before they're being presented with the information? I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We both love to cook. We are quite competent in the kitchen, right? So when we read recipes without reading verbatim word by word, we kind of know, right? Like
Yeah.
if you want to melt chocolate in a microwave, it's 20-second burst. You can't just put it there for like
3 minutes.
3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Or at the same time, you need to preheat your oven, or you need to preheat the oil before you actually do the deep frying. But there are people, I'm not saying this has anything to do with the intelligence, it's just some people are more attuned towards certain things.
Mm.
So when someone with zero knowledge or interest when it comes to human health, body, and wellness, being presented with information like that could be, number one, overwhelming, and number two,
Yeah.
misinterpreted. Because I did a little experiment before you arrive, and I know that we're a little bit late. I just put in the symptoms of headache. And guess what? Seven down the list, the seventh answer down the list is brain cancer.
Nice. And of course, you always tend towards the worst thing, right?
Yes. And I do find that when people put in their symptoms, be it in the chatbot model, learning model, or like language model, or search engine, they have we tend not to describe it accurately. We either overplay it
Yep.
or underplay it.
Yeah. I think we could probably do a whole podcast on the benefits of putting an accurate prompt into a chatbot.
Yes, because not to jump the gun, but AI is only as smart as what you are prompting it to do.
Yeah, and the
What
context that it has.
the context.
Yeah.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. So this is more of your field, Stephen. So AI, artificial intelligence, it's not really an intelligent being, right? It's basically just a supercomputer that can process information, a lot of information, and spit out the. It's not the answer, more of a result of analysis of information. Is that correct, or am I?
No, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Uh, there are a number of ways that people describe artificial intelligence, and my personal view is that we don't have the kind of artificial intelligence that we see in movies like iRobot. You don't have artificial intelligence that are thinking, potentially feeling, and that maybe is in the future. I know that there are a lot of people working on that, but we need a lot more compute power to be able to generate something similar to the human brain. Like it's just out of our reach.
It is so interesting that iRobot is probably one of the oldest and the first out of many depiction of artificial intelligence slash robot by the Hollywood industry, right?
Yeah.
But time and time again, it doesn't matter which book, which article, even the recently published article or recently published podcast, including ours, we still reference it.
Absolutely. It's in common use.
Yes.
So I wanted to try and give maybe my reflection on the AIs that we're using today, and it's not so different to what you just described. So anyone who has played chess online with a computer
Or Texas Hold'em.
or Texas Hold'em or any of those games, so all of those games have rules, and so a computer or an AI can learn those rules. And then in chess, a computer can understand what happens or put in place some guesses to what's going to happen a number of moves ahead based on the rule set that they've got.
It's a predictive model.
It's a predictive model. Now, modern AIs are more of a tree decision model. And so if you say to an AI, how many R's are there in strawberry? what should happen is, and what we expect to happen, is that the AI knows how to spell strawberry.
It's 3, by the way.
And then intuits how many R's there are. But for the longest time, ChatGPT thought that there were 2.
Really?
And it's because when an AI learns something, when you teach it something, it doesn't necessarily give it the ability to intuit an answer that it hasn't already learned. And it can't necessarily count, for example. The older models couldn't count. So ask ChatGPT 3, how many R's in strawberry? 2.
Wow. Well, this is actually really interesting because you haven't seen my notes, so you don't actually know what I
No.
want to talk
Right.
about. But I asked, so my sister is a surgeon and general surgeon, and I asked her about AI health as well as how it improves healthcare or could be impediment to people getting healthy. And she mentioned something that is very profound, which actually related to what you just said about the prediction, the real time learning, as well as the ability to gather information. Because there in medicine, apparently the process of diagnosing uh, a disease or an illness based on the symptoms, it takes time, not only because there is an observation period, there's also things like incubation, but also they need, or doctors rely on the responses given by the body at
Yeah.
along this time. It's not just at any one time. So what she told me is that these feedback loops is actually very important in not only diagnosis but also treatment and post-treatment, because the hormone rises then fall, inflammation turn on and resolve, tissue remodel in response to stress. When you put all of these things into a ChatGPT or into an AI model, because of its ability to process information so quickly,
Mm.
it takes away what your body would naturally respond to certain type of treatment, or if the symptoms can get worse or get better.
Yeah.
And this is the gap that, according to my sister, is still missing in this technology.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think that even when you are asking one of those AI platforms a question, a lot of people, because they're used to maybe search engines, accept the first answer. Now, in what I do, many times the answer that I get is not right when it comes back, the first answer. And I realize that the question that I've asked maybe doesn't have enough information for the AI to work on an answer that's accurate. And so I find myself saying back to the AI in the same context, so in the same chat, that's completely wrong. You're absolutely full of it. Here is the extra information. Please consider this and give me a different answer.
Do you also think that because in science, when we design an experiment as a scientist and researcher, there is you can't avoid it, you can't deny it. There is this thing that's called an inherent bias.
Inherent bias, absolutely.
Does this also apply to ChatGPT, for example? Because I how do I say this without sounding weird? ChatGPT is a really good friend. He
Yeah.
also always answers in affirmative. It will say, Dr. Vincent, great idea, good thinking. What a wonderful and profound thought process. And I was like,
You're not as nasty to your AI as I am, obviously.
I am very polite, just in case. I mean, along with iRobot, I also watch all the series of Terminator. So just in
Yeah.
case there is a rise of Skynet,
Hmm.
they should remember I'm very nice.
You're going to be on the good people list.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what, like, does it actually give you the answer that you want, or
Mm.
am I imagining things?
Look, it's always going to give you the answer based on the training model and the data set that it has. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So GPT stands for general purpose. Now, you could actually run up your own AI at home if you have a fast enough computer, and you can download a model that's been trained on a particular thing. And this is very common in the technology world. If you want a model that's been trained specifically on some particular subject, then you can download a model that is specific for that.
Okay.
Maybe a general way of thinking about it is if you want a model that's able to do cartoons in the style of Ghibli, then you might download a LLM, a language model that has every single Ghibli cartoon that's ever been produced as its learning information.
Because it has been trained
Because it's been
specifically for
trained
that.
specifically on that. Now, if you ask it how many hours there are in Strawberry, I guarantee you it will get that wrong.
It's 3 people.
But if you ask it to take a photo and then using its model generate a Ghibli photo of that image that you've provided, it's going to be amazing at it.
So basically, it's like asking a chef to build a house and vice versa. Asking a builder to cook. I'm sure there are people who can do both, but we're talking about specific training. It's almost like surgeon who general surgeon, every surgeon can perform some sort of surgical procedure.
There's some basic things.
But if you want to go into like brain surgery, cardiothoracic surgery, look at me like throwing these terms, right? You need to find a specialist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing that some people forget, or maybe don't even ask the model that they're using, is when it was trained.
Where?
When?
When?
Yeah. Have you ever asked ChatGPT when it was trained?
No.
Because there's a cutoff to the.
Of course, I rely on the latest edition or version, and I know that they only know what they know.
That's right.
But I've never actually. It never occurred to me to actually ask up until what point your database of information is being updated to.
Yeah, absolutely. And so all of our listeners could go out and for their favorite environment, ask right now. See what it says.
Not right now though. You're watching us.
Oh yeah,
not right now.
After the podcast.
After the podcast.
And just so that everybody doesn't dive off to do that. So ChatGPT 5.2, the knowledge is through to the 31st of August last year.
Okay.
So anything that has been discovered or anything that is new on a particular subject, any subject that is new since the 31st of August last year is out of date.
Wow.
And I thought there must be a good example of that that's health related. And you know me, Vincent, I like doing my research.
This is the crazy thing. Before you jump onto that, the first thing that came in mind, I know that I should be thinking the way that you were thinking, health related. But the first thing that was it was geopolitical thing. I was like,
Wow.
August last year. So what Venezuela has not been invaded yet. Anyway,
it's absolutely, and our listeners need to remember that this is if you ask an LLM, it's going to give you an answer based on what it has learned, what it's been trained on. And so I don't know if many of our listeners have been following the problem with an excess amount of B6 that people have been taking as part of supplements.
Yes.
And it has a really terrible detrimental effect on your health.
This goes to prove that anything that is too much or too little is not good for you, even something that is essential. So B6, along with all of the B vitamins from this group that's water soluble, is essential for us. It's essential for our nervous system health, for our neuropathology. However, go on.
There was some research, and it was after August last year, that starts to uncover that too much B6 is quite bad for you, and
it's very damaging. And I'm not trying to be an alarmist. It can be crippling in the way that you lose a sensation, you lose a sense of touch, and you in some cases it can actually cause a lasting and permanent damage. And what you're saying is that, not that I've tested this before with ChatGPT, what you're saying is that when you ask ChatGPT, the latest model, it probably wouldn't give you the risk associated with taking B6.
Correct, because that information is post when it was trained. Now, there are a lot of AIs that will also go out to the internet and look at the latest research. My favorite is Perplexity, and we've mentioned ChatGPT, so I'm going to mention my favorite as well. And those AI interfaces implement or they augment the knowledge that they have, and that can be really helpful. But there's still a concern that if you ask a question of Perplexity, it will look at its models and the models that are available to it and will provide you an answer, and it will then go off to the internet and will do some searching as well and provide you all of the reasons that it thinks it's come up with the right answer. But if Perplexity is going off to Reddit and it's just because somebody on Reddit has said something, like should we be trusting that? Like you can't just blindly trust any of these environments, even if they are going out to the internet and doing their own searches.
So it's almost like, so how do I say this? So the answer or the answer analyzed and predicted by artificial intelligence models, any of them, is only as good as the information that it is available to them.
Correct. Yes.
So if there is a world that we imagine and every single data point, every single record shows that the Earth instead of the sun is the center of the universe.
Then that is the answer that they're going to provide to you.
Okay, so now my question is that information is now we are in the age of information, sometimes too much information. And as much as I love that it is no longer being gate kept by legacy media, mainstream media, and big publishers, it also means that there are informations out there more so than ever that have not been peer reviewed, that hasn't been analyzed, that hasn't been verified. And all of this information feeds into the AI model that a lot of people are using right now.
That is absolutely. The argument, though, for these models is actually very similar to what you just said, that we now have access to more information than we've ever had access to in the past. And that can actually be a good thing.
How? So obviously it's above our pay grade, right? What are the things that, because when I read news, they say that the EU leaders, whatever it is, they really want to, for lack of a better word, contain and sandbox this AI in the way that it is only or mostly good for us, including our health.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? What does gut railing AI actually mean?
Yeah. Look, I think that it is definitely a very wide discussion, that question. But if I was to try and simplify it as much as possible, so if we go back 10 years or so, before we had all these AIs generally available, we had Google and Bing and maybe some
Bing.
other search things.
Opera.
So when you asked a question, it would be essentially it worked in a very similar way. There was an algorithm that looked at a database of indexed websites,
Okay.
and then provided you back with some hints of where you should go. Never claim to provide you answers. Search engines provide you links to places where you can maybe find answers. And so when we used those search engines 10 years ago, we would get links to websites, and the websites would have an opinion, and you would look at it and you'd say, oh, well, that's a doctor who's made that claim, or that's a scientist who's made that claim. And you could really drill into the information that allowed them to come up with that claim, hopefully. If it was a link to Reddit, then maybe you'd be missing that. But at the time, if you were a researcher and you wanted validated and researched information, there were whole environments within universities that were closed off to the general public. They're only available for researchers and people who are studying,
Yes.
where the information that they were accessing was intrinsically validated. It had been peer reviewed. It had been published.
Yes.
When I do searches today, and if the link comes up and it's something that's appeared in a journal or a magazine that I'm familiar with, then I'm more likely to trust that than if I'm going to get something that's been on somebody's blog somewhere. And so this is really the what some of those leaders are trying to do. They're trying to limit the amount of just made up stuff that AIs might be trained on because they've done a scan of a particular website, versus things that are actually validated and can be backed by science.
Well, that's all well and good. However, there is an element of conversational aspect that when you read something, I feel that, I don't know whether this is just me or everybody feels that, you're a lot more skeptical. You apply a lot more standard to what you are reading, because if it doesn't sound right, then you go back and read it twice or you read it 3 times, and then your brain is so trained in you know being thorough when it comes to what you read.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this is just me as a scientist or not, but when it is in conversational setting, I know that you read the chat as well, but in a lot of cases, you feel like, especially Generation Z, Generation Alpha, who grow up with texting and chatting on their screen, that became their conversational piece, that it is so easy to convince someone, in this case human, to believe something, to take that as a gospel truth when it is conversational. It's very, very rare in a dinner party when somebody told you something, unless it's really outrageous. You often just take it and say, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And guess what? You will parrot it the next time, because there's this trivia thing that you just learn. And then when you are, say, for example, you go home and you speak to your partner, oh, did you know that such and such happened in 1992 or something like that? And my worry is that when it comes to information being disseminated in this delivery system, in this format, our guard, our standard of criticism, we have been disarmed.
Yeah. I hope that our listeners, when one of the AIs responds with something that does not have any validation, that they ask the AI to validate. And it's a very simple thing to do. Now, all of the owners of data centers will love that, because the more questions you ask an AI, the more power and compute that they need. But I think that maybe we stop saying thank you to AIs, and instead
You don't have
we
to look at
say,
me like that, Vin. I say both thank you and please.
just keep the future AI overlords happy. Maybe instead of saying thank you, maybe we say prove it, or maybe we say validate what you just said, or maybe we say I don't believe you convinced me, because you've got that opportunity to interact with the AI. That is one of the most powerful things about this new environment.
Yeah.
When we did a Google search 10 years ago, we couldn't say to Google, I don't believe that the top 5 things that you've given me are accurate. You've got an AI environment which is available to chat with you. Ask it.
Okay. So analysis, discussion, and problem solving part of the AI, I get that. It is just as good as the information that it has access to.
Yeah.
It is just as good as the scrutiny that you place onto it. And it is just as useful when it's applicable to in the right setting and environment. Now, the other thing that my sister, a surgeon, is quite skeptical about, and she's actually really quite a cynic when it comes to AI and healthcare, especially in a medicine hospital setting, because there was a study that she references that when AI is being applied in the clinical setting, sure, it can do all of those menial tedious things like patient admission form, charts, and everything.
Yep.
And sometimes, in some cases, some AI and robotic arm can actually do simple procedure like suture, stitching, and bandaging, and applying gauze and things like that.
Yeah.
However, her argument is that doctors and surgeons do not just appear knowing immediately how to perform an open heart surgery.
Just because you've read the textbook doesn't mean you're going to be able to apply.
Yes.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have this training, essential basic training of, inserting an IV, drawing blood, simple stitching, dressing the wound. Those are essential steps before you start slicing brain, for example.
Yeah.
And at the same time, whilst this tedious menial administrative job that nobody wants to do and nobody thinks that is so useless, there is a lot of training, according to her, and I believe her, in terms of critical thinking, in terms of scanning information and take the information into the clinical advice, diagnosis, and treatment when you read patient's chart.
Yeah.
Because they are just like everything, there are nuances when it comes to reading and interpreting the data. It's not just one and zeros.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that AIs are really great at taking very large amounts of data and providing summaries. But even when I'm building an application, internet application, and I'm using a programming language to do that, even when I ask the AI to provide me with feedback on how to get the application running faster, it's not always correct. In fact, I would say that it's probably often incorrect.
Wow.
So I don't think that I personally would trust an AI with a number 10 blade to go anywhere near me or my family.
And that I mean, I would be in the same boat with you. But when I presented today's topic to someone else, like my business partner who happens to be in America, there is an argument that, I don't know, have you seen this movie, Matt Damon starring in Elysium?
Yes.
So basically, AI can make healthcare so accessible. Mind you, this is coming from an American with a very different live experience when it comes to healthcare, right? Like we are so lucky. We're so lucky being here in Australia that everyone, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, everyone has access to healthcare. Like you will not being sick here, I think will not and it should not bankrupt you.
Yeah. I understand the US environment and the need for someone who perhaps doesn't think that they've got access to healthcare to look for other ways of getting health advice. And I don't think that we should ignore that, and we certainly shouldn't put it down.
The exact word that was being used was democratizing healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the example that I used earlier is what is a good blood pressure range for somebody of my age, and whether I'm a smoker or not, or if I drink alcohol. And I think that AI is very happy to come back and give you that
something that's already a settled concept and principle. Like that high cholesterol means that your risk of developing cardiovascular health issue proportionally increases as well. Or if you're diabetic, you should not be indulging in something that's too sweet or sugar and stuff like that. Something that is essential. There are no opinions. I mean, I hope this is the case that 100% of scientists and doctors would agree that if you're diabetic, you should not be drinking Coke, for example. So this you're talking about this kind of health information that
Exactly, and even I'll give you a real example actually. So last time I went to the doctor, I couldn't hear out of one ear. Which was very strange, and it ended up being really super straightforward. I didn't have any, weird and wonderful story to go with that. It was simply solved. But in my 15 minutes with my GP took my blood pressure and said, "Oh, it's a little bit high. Just do more exercise." Oh, no, okay, whatever. And she said, "Oh, you're carrying a little bit too much weight as well. You should work out some ways of building some sort of more exercise and maybe stop having too much sugar
and champagne
and vodka, which I'm a bit addicted to." And you've got a certain amount of time with your doctor, and the doctor is there probably to solve one thing that you've gone to them with. And there are all these other little comments that your doctor might make to you. Well, AI is really super helpful for being able to fill in some more context and some more information around what your doctor has suggested that you do. And so I can go back to my AI and say, this is the treat that I have in the afternoon. It's a cookie with my coffee. What are the different things that I could have instead?
Okay.
Or when I'm cooking, I might have a recipe which has a huge amount of cream and dairy in it. My wife is no dairy. And so I might ask an AI, how do I replace the dairy in this recipe so that it's healthier for her? And that's really super useful.
It's complementary to
what the advice that I've been given by my healthcare professional.
And again, that goes back to how you use it, because at the end of the day, at least until now, AI is a tool.
Absolutely.
And it is up to the user of the tool that will determine how useful or how dangerous the tool is.
Yeah.
An axe, in the hand of a woodworker
Look,
works, but in the hand of the axe murderer. I don't know why it sounds. Well, I don't know why I'm laughing.
Let's not go there. Let me just remind our listeners, though, that this technology is new. Now, we might be very used to using it. I use AI every single day. And it's really super useful. And, maybe I get some good answers, maybe I get some bad answers. I need to consider what it gives me back. But it's new. So I wanted to give our listeners a bit of a list. So Gemini,
Yes,
the
Google version.
Is it going to talk? It was released in February 2024.
Wow. That really...
Copilot is September 23. Perplexity is August 23. Claude is March 23. And ChatGPT is November 22. These technologies are very new.
They are infants.
TikTok was 2018. Hello to all of our TikTok viewers. Netflix, Stan, Presto, Amazon, etc. They were all about 2016.
All 90 people of you?
Facebook was 2006.
Yeah.
So it's a very new technology. We should treat it as such, and we should be asking it to validate the answers that we get from it.
Well, I really do think that this is something that, at the very least, is food for thought. I really do believe that, again, it's a tool. It really is up to us users to determine whether or not it can actually make us healthier or make us sicker when it comes to our health and well-being. One of the very useful artificial intelligence or this data crunching ability is that I recently just joined a new gym.
Yeah.
And today's episode is sponsored by my good friend at the BFT Mascot. So give it a go. I think at the moment they're running a promotion. It's 7 sessions for $20. I have to get this right because it's not 20 sessions for $7. It's 7 sessions for $20. And today was my 4th sessions. And I have to say that I don't really like going to the gym. I prefer more of a freestyle workout.
Yeah.
Like,
what's your favorite machine so far?
See, this is the thing. This gym is very different. So the programs were all developed by sports scientists in the way that it maximizes your aerobic and anaerobic soft kind of breathing and respiration.
Yeah, unique to you.
Unique to use.
Fantastic.
And as a matter of fact, I haven't got one of those, but as a matter of fact, a lot of the members are wearing that heart rate monitor, because the screen will tell you whether or not you're working hard enough, you're working too hard, or you can push yourself a little bit more. So it's all about how to work with your body with several different goals. So today was all about lower body strength.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, especially people who are a little bit vain, me included, we focus too much on how our arms look like, our chest, and sometimes six pack if we can do that.
I wish, yeah.
But less about lower body strength, because those are not the muscles that some kind of you show off, right? However, and I should know this because I did learn human physiology and anatomy, the more body mass index, lean body mass index that you have, and the biggest muscles would be your buttocks, your legs, and your lower body, the more efficient your body is in burning fat.
Wow.
So this is something that is, in my mind, I don't know whether this is the case or not, but using technology and information and science to supercharge your exercise in the faster, easier, and safer way, that's one of the example of user wisdom to utilize information at hand.
Yeah. Which you could then take to your trainer or your health professional for them to validate as well.
That's correct. And you have access to your body scan machine as well, which is really, really insightful, because it no longer only measure your BMI or your lean body mass and body fat percentage. It also measure your inflammation rate. It also measure your hydration, because the number on the scale is no longer the only number that matters.
Yeah.
The composition of your body also matters. And we are on our 22nd episode now. You should know that all of the numbers contributes to your health and well-being. It's not just your weight.
Yeah. Awesome.
So you're joining me next week?
Maybe. I don't mind a treadmill. I used to be a cyclist, so I'm happy on a cycle as well.
Well,
but I think, as I've said before, I like my bushwalking, so that's.
I'm with you with that. That's the reason why I haven't been. Today was my fourth session. Before that, I haven't been to the gym for probably a little bit over 2 years, because I like to be outdoors. I like to. I mean, we both share passion and love for gardening and bushwalking, and we're so lucky living in Sydney. 20 minutes drive, you get
exactly.
Exactly.
So Vincent, let's wrap this this episode.
Just at 40 minutes. This
40 minutes?
This is amazing. No, actually, it's probably 44 because I missed the first 4 minutes. But thank you for the reminder, Stephen. We have another news before we leave you. The first issue of our newsletter had been published, and thank you for the 4,000 people who have read it. Thank you so much for sharing it too. I know we're really busy. I don't know why we're doing this, but sometimes there are things like there were last week. We ran overtime so much that we only were able to address 3 questions out of the 6 questions that we received. So this is another avenue for us to do a deep dive on certain topics, to remind you to listen to our next episode, because we're gonna put a little bit of a teaser in the newsletter. And true to the name, because it's after hours, we will try to send it to you on Sunday at 9:00. So when the kids go to bed, when you don't really want to be watching TV, because if you binge a Netflix show, which I just did with Lincoln Lawyer, you don't go to bed until 12:00. So it's something that you can read at your own pace, and hopefully you like it. And please let me and Stephen know what you think about it, and if we can do something that may our newsletter more useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the summary of last week's podcast is a key part of that, and we're always here to answer questions.
And Stephen promises that he will also share his recipes.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'll share a recipe next week.
See how you put someone on the spot. On that note, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Until next time, look after yourself. Bye-bye.